Welcome back. Well, let's get more on the situation in Brazil now and why the divisions there are so deep-seated. Professor Karin Costa Vazquez is a professor at the O.P. Jindal Global University. She's from Brazil, but is currently in China. Professor, good afternoon to you, and I really do, well, I say good afternoon, I'm not sure what the time in China is. I really do appreciate the time, and thank you. Why is Brazilian society so divided? How have these divisions become so deep-seated that people won't accept the result of an election?
Thank you very much for having me in the show again, Stephen. It's a great pleasure to talk to you. It's true, the situation in Brazil is very critical. The population is very divided. Some right-wing supporters are not accepting the results of the election. And since October 30, when we had the second ballot, there have been demonstrations that led to the acts of terrorism that we saw last Sunday in Brasilia. So I would say that the act of terrorism in Brazil, they're not just about the attacks on the public buildings. They are targeting the democracy in Brazil. As I said, the contestation of the results of the election and, more broadly speaking, the democratic institutions in the country. And these needs to be investigated very carefully, and the responsible people punished with rigor.
Almost 50% of people voted for Jair Bolsonaro, and just over 50% of people voted for Lula. So what you have now, President Lula, is a country that's literally divided in the middle. I mean, so similar to the United States in some ways. Is there any way that anyone or any political group could try and sort of, you know, look at the division and cut across the division in any way?
There is a lot of negotiations already happening to form the political support for the current government. So negotiations among the different parties. The parties in the center, the parties in the right wing, the extreme right, to form a new coalition that will give the basis, the foundation for Lula to govern. So this is strong. Lula himself is a very savvy political leader, political figure, and has been navigating very wisely this reality, this scenario. But in the meantime, the population is still somehow divided, and many of these groups are being financed by some of these right-wing politicians and private sector entrepreneurs, right-wing entrepreneurs, and this has been causing this type of attacks and this situation in the country. So punishment, in first place, investigations and punishments, not only for those who are acting or attacking, who were at the attacks on Sunday, but also those behind the scenes who were somehow supporting or financing these movements need to be punished. And to give a clear example of how this type of behavior going forward will not be tolerated, to avoid similar situations happening again in the future.
The other big global story which is playing out and will have a big impact on South Africa this year is around the reopening of the Chinese economy, the end of the policy of zero COVID, the fact that China's society is now opening up, and you're currently in China, you're based there. This is leading to more COVID cases, more cases of COVID-19 in China. How big is the impact of all of this on Chinese society?
It's very positive in a way, because finally after 3 years, people are able to move more freely within China, into China, outside China. So this is very positive for the people, for businesses, for the investment environment in the country. But at the same time, it has come at a cost. and a cost in the number of cases, and the number of infections, and the numbers of people, of deaths, even though it's hard to quantify because with the relaxation of the policies, there was also relaxation of the mechanisms to monitor the new cases. So official data is not that readily available as it used to be before. So much of the numbers are based on estimates, so much less accurate. So it's hard to precise the real impact of the sudden opening, the sudden relaxation. So in a nutshell, I think there's mixed feelings. I mean, on the one hand, many good expectations, a relief. People are very tired after 3 years of very strict controls, but at the same time, at a cost that could, to a certain extent, be avoided with better policies to increase vaccination, for example, or to increase the capacity of hospitals to receive and treat the growing number of cases of people infected with the virus.
The Western media has been reporting that families are having to cremate people in the street because there isn't enough space to do that in private. Are these reports really accurate?
These reports we are getting from international journalists. So these are not official data from the government. So this is being assessed by the journalists who have been going to these places, the cremation places in Beijing and in other cities of China, and who have reported a surge in the number of deaths and cremations compared to the previous winter, and including previous years as well. So again, it's not the official data, it's the reports that we are getting from the journalists. Certainly there is an impact, but you cannot really affirm that these are COVID cases or what is the cause of the deaths. You have a surge in the number of cases, in the number of deaths, but you don't have an official confirmation on what caused the death in the first place. So there is a correlation, but not necessarily causation, and no official data, again, on these numbers. But again, it's correct to say that yes, the surge in the capacity of hospitals is certainly a big burden. In 1 month, there was a big number of people infected, and we are talking about a country of 1,400,000,000 people. So it was a very fast and intense process with certainly major impacts in the health system, for sure.
Professor, thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate the time. Professor Karin Costa Vazquez is a professor at the OP Jindal Global University, as you can see, from Brazil, but currently in China. Really do appreciate the time.